Every single Zelda game introduces what appears to be a completely different hero. Different face, different era, different art style. And for years, fans have pointed to this as proof that each Link is an entirely new person, with no connection to the ones who came before. But what if this popular interpretation has been missing the point all along? What if Link's constant reinvention isn't evidence of separation, but proof of something far more profound about what makes a hero timeless? The theory seems airtight at first glance. The Legend of Zelda series spans thousands of years across multiple timelines. Ocarina of Time's Hero of Time can't possibly be the same person as Breath of the Wild's champion. The games themselves explicitly tell players that different incarnations of Link appear throughout history. Hyrule Historia, the official chronology released by Nintendo, maps out these separate heroes across branching timelines. The evidence appears overwhelming. Case closed, right? Not quite, because this interpretation confuses the concept of reincarnation with the idea of starting from scratch. It mistakes visual redesign for narrative reset. And most critically, it overlooks the fundamental philosophy that Nintendo has embedded into every single Zelda game since the series began in 1986. The confusion is understandable. When The Legend of Zelda first appeared on the Nintendo Entertainment System, players encountered a young hero in green tunic with no backstory, no dialogue, and no personality beyond what players projected onto him. When The Adventure of Link released the following year, that same Link returned for a direct sequel. Simple enough. But then came A Link to the Past in 1991, featuring what appeared to be a completely different Link in a completely different era of Hyrule's history. Different opening, different backstory, different world. The pattern had begun. This cycle accelerated dramatically with Ocarina of Time in 1998. The graphical leap to 3 dimensions transformed Link from a sprite-based character into a fully realized 3D model. The art direction, the proportions, the facial features, everything changed. Then Majora's Mask kept that same Link but placed him in an entirely different world. The Wind Waker shocked fans in 2002 with cel-shaded Toon Link, a deliberately cartoonish interpretation that looked nothing like the realistic hero of time. Twilight Princess swung back toward realism. Skyward Sword introduced a new art style that split the difference. Breath of the Wild reimagined Link yet again with an anime-influenced aesthetic. Each transformation reinforced the perception that every game features a blank slate, a fresh start, a new Link for a new generation of players. The theory gained such traction that it became conventional wisdom in the Zelda community. Forums, wikis, and YouTube videos confidently assert that each Link is definitively a different person who happens to share a name and destiny. The simplicity of this explanation made it attractive, neat, tidy, easy to communicate. But this interpretation crumbles under closer examination of what Nintendo has actually said and done with the character across nearly 4 decades. The first critical detail that disrupts the new Link theory is the Triforce of Courage itself. This isn't just a magical MacGuffin that randomly appears in different eras. According to official Zelda lore established across multiple games and confirmed in Hyrule Historia, the Triforce of Courage is intrinsically linked to the spirit of the hero, not to random heroes, not to whoever happens to pick up a sword, to a specific heroic spirit that reincarnates across time. Skyward Sword, released in 2011, explicitly establishes this connection. The game serves as the origin story for the entire Zelda timeline, taking place before any other game in the series. At the conclusion of Skyward Sword, the Demon King Demise places a curse on Link and Zelda. His exact words, translated from the original Japanese and confirmed in official English localization, explain that an incarnation of his hatred will continuously resurrect throughout history. But critically, the curse also ensures that those with the spirit of the hero and the blood of the goddess will rise to face this hatred again and again. This isn't Nintendo being vague or metaphorical. This is explicit canonical lore establishing that a specific heroic spirit, Link's spirit, reincarnates throughout Hyrule's history. The Triforce of Courage doesn't randomly select worthy individuals. It recognizes and resonates with this particular spirit each time it returns. This is why Link across all games shares the Triforce of Courage. This is why the Master Sword, forged specifically for the hero chosen by the goddess, can only be wielded by Link across all timelines. The sword doesn't just accept any brave person, it recognizes the spirit it was created to serve.
Breath of the Wild reinforces this through environmental storytelling and in-game lore.
The Master Sword's description explicitly states it's the blade of evil's bane that seals the darkness, and that only one worthy of the title of Hero of Time can wield it. Not heroes, plural, not worthy warriors, the hero, singular. The game's recovered memories show that even before Link pulled the Master Sword, it called to him specifically. Zelda herself confirms in her diary entries found in Hyrule Castle that the sword chose Link, and that this wasn't a random selection, but rather recognition of something fundamental about who or what Link is. Now, some might argue this is just flowery language or mythological framing, but Nintendo's own statements in interviews and official materials contradict this dismissal. Series producer Eiji Aonuma has explained in multiple interviews, including those compiled in the Creating a Champion art book for Breath of the Wild, that Link is designed to represent courage as a fundamental force, not individual courageous people, but courage itself as a repeating, eternal constant in the battle against evil. This philosophical foundation affects everything about how Link is designed and presented across the series. Every game features specific mechanical and narrative elements that reinforce Link's core identity, regardless of which era or timeline the game occupies. Consider the gameplay mechanics that remain absolutely consistent across nearly every Zelda game. Link always starts relatively weak and grows stronger through exploration and challenge. He doesn't begin as a legendary hero, he becomes one through action. This progression isn't just a game design convention, it's a narrative statement about what heroism means. The hero of time in Ocarina of Time starts as a child without a fairy in Kokiri Forest, considered an outsider even among the only family he knows. The hero of Winds in The Wind Waker begins as a simple boy on Outset Island with no combat training. The hero of the Wild in Breath of the Wild wakes with no memories and must relearn everything. The hero of the Sky in Skyward Sword is a student at the Knight Academy, not yet a hero of legend. Every Link begins ordinary and becomes extraordinary. This arc doesn't reset because it's a new person, it repeats because it represents the hero's journey as an eternal pattern. The spirit carries the potential for courage, but each incarnation must actively choose to embrace that courage through action. This is why the Triforce of Courage doesn't simply make Link invincible, it marks him as someone who will face fear and act despite it. The items and tools Link uses across games also reveal this deeper continuity. The Master Sword appears in The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. In games where it doesn't appear, there's always a legendary blade with similar properties. The Four Sword in Four Swords, the Phantom Sword in Phantom Hourglass. These weapons aren't just powerful equipment, they're narrative threads connecting each Link to every other Link. The Master Sword in The Wind Waker is explicitly the same blade wielded by the Hero of Time, preserved beneath the waves. When the Hero of Winds claims it, he's not picking up a random sword, he's connecting to a legacy. The games constantly reference this legacy through environmental details and NPC dialogue. In Twilight Princess, the hero's shade, revealed to be the Hero of Time in Ocarina of Time, directly teaches Link combat techniques. This ghost isn't training a stranger. The hero's shade explicitly expresses regret that his skills weren't passed down, and he seeks to correct this by teaching the hero who has come after him. The dialogue frames this as one incarnation of the heroic spirit instructing another. The hero's shade sees himself in this new Link. He recognizes the connection. Breath of the Wild takes this even further. Throughout Hyrule, players discover various locations and items referencing previous games. Lone Ranch ruins, the Temple of Time, the Bridge of Hylia. These aren't just Easter eggs for longtime fans. They're canonical proof that all these legends occurred in the same continuous world, and that each Link is part of the same ongoing struggle against evil. The DLC for Breath of the Wild includes armor sets from Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and The Wind Waker. When Link wears these sets, the game acknowledges them as worn by heroes of legend, not worn by different people named Link. Heroes, plural forms of the same heroic identity. Tears of the Kingdom expands this by showing ancient Zonai murals depicting a hero with a sword fighting against Ganondorf thousands of years before the game's present. The Master Sword exists in both the distant past and the present, connecting across time itself. Zelda's journey through time in Tears of the Kingdom explicitly demonstrates that the hero's spirit and the princess's bloodline are locked in an eternal cycle with Ganondorf's hatred. These three forces, courage, wisdom, and power, aren't randomly reassigned to new people. They're fundamental aspects of the same souls returning again and again.
The art style changes that seem to suggest completely different characters actually serve the opposite purpose. Each redesign adapts Link to the specific narrative and emotional requirements of that particular game's story while maintaining core visual elements that make him instantly recognizable. Toon Link in The Wind Waker wasn't created to establish a completely different person. According to interviews with director Eiji Aonuma and art director Satoru Takizawa in the Hyrule Historia, the self-shaded style was chosen to emphasize the theme of the game, a young boy discovering courage and growing into a hero. The expressive, animated style allowed the team to convey emotion and personality through Link's facial expressions and body language in ways that the more realistic style of previous games couldn't achieve. Toon Link's huge eyes grow wide with fear when he faces danger. His determined expression hardens when he makes the choice to be brave. These aren't signs that this Link is fundamentally different from the hero of time. They're tools to externalize the internal journey that every Link experiences. Twilight Princess Link, designed by Yuseki Nakano, returned to a realistic aesthetic specifically because the game's themes involved darkness, maturity, and burden. This Link needed to appear as someone capable of bearing the weight of becoming a beast, of confronting the shadowy aspects of courage. The visual design serves the story's emotional needs. But mechanically and narratively, Twilight Princess Link goes through the same fundamental journey. Ordinary person encounters crisis, chooses to act courageously, grows in strength and wisdom, defeats evil, and restores peace. The journey is identical to Ocarina of Time's journey, to A Link to the Past's journey, to The Wind Waker's journey. The visual presentation changes. The core narrative never does. Skyward Sword's watercolor-inspired impressionistic style, described by Yoshiki Haruhana in official art books, was developed to create a dreamlike, mythological atmosphere fitting for the origin story of the entire series. Link's design in Skyward Sword emphasizes youth and potential. His journey from academy student to legendary hero needed to feel epic yet intimate. The art style supports this by creating a world that feels both fantastical and emotionally immediate. Breath of the Wild's Link, designed by Hiroki Hirano, incorporates anime influences specifically to create a character who could express a wide range of emotions through subtle animations while still fitting into a vast open world. The design needed to work from every camera angle, since players could approach situations from any direction. Despite these technical considerations, core design elements remain consistent. Green tunic as iconic equipment, pointed ears as a Hylian trait, blonde hair, Master Sword, Hylian shield, similar facial structure. Every Link across every game maintains these recognizable features, regardless of art style. The consistency isn't accidental. Nintendo's design philosophy, explained in multiple Iwata Asks interviews and developer commentaries, emphasizes that Link must always be instantly recognizable even as he evolves. Each redesign is an adaptation, not a replacement. The same way James Bond has been portrayed by different actors with different interpretations while remaining fundamentally the same character, Link's appearance changes, while his essential nature remains constant. Critics of this interpretation often point to the blank slate nature of Link as evidence that each game features a completely new person with no connection to previous incarnations. Link rarely speaks. He has no defined personality. Players project themselves onto him. Doesn't this prove he's whoever players want him to be, changing completely each game? Actually, no. This argument confuses player projection with narrative identity. Link's silence is a deliberate design choice that serves multiple purposes, as explained by Shigeru Miyamoto, the series creator, in various interviews compiled in official Nintendo materials.
Link doesn't speak because players should feel like they are the hero, but this doesn't mean Link lacks personality or identity. It means his personality is expressed through actions rather than words. Throughout every Zelda game, Link's choices define him. He always chooses to help others. He always confronts danger to protect the innocent. He always persists even when situations seem hopeless. These aren't random gameplay mechanics. They're consistent character traits that define who Link is across all incarnations. The hero of time could have fled when Ganondorf attacked Hyrule. He didn't. The hero of the winds could have abandoned his sister to the Helmarok King. He didn't. The hero of the wild could have remained in the Shrine of Resurrection forever, avoiding the burden of memory and responsibility. He didn't. Link's defining characteristic is that he acts when others cannot or will not. This courage isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, determined, and absolutely consistent across every incarnation. The silence that makes Link seem like a blank slate is actually the most important aspect of his character. He doesn't need to announce his intentions or describe his feelings, because his actions speak louder than words ever could.
This is reinforced by how NPCs across all games describe Link. Zelda consistently recognizes something special about Link before he becomes a legendary hero. In Skyward Sword, she's already close friends with Link before the adventure begins, drawn to something about his character. In Ocarina of Time, Princess Zelda immediately trusts Link despite having just met him, sensing the heroic spirit within him. In Breath of the Wild, pre-Calamity memories show Link initially frustrated with Link precisely because she can't understand why the Master Sword chose him, until she witnesses his unwavering dedication to protecting her at the cost of his own life. These relationships aren't random. Zelda, carrying the blood of the goddess Hylia, recognizes Link's spirit on a fundamental level. Their connection transcends individual lifetimes because they're not meeting as strangers. They're souls that have found each other across time again and again, even when they don't consciously remember previous incarnations. The structure of the games themselves reinforces this continuity. Every Zelda game follows the hero's journey mythological structure identified by Joseph Campbell, which Nintendo's developers have explicitly cited as inspiration. Link in every game starts in the ordinary world, receives a call to adventure, initially refuses or is reluctant, gains mentors and allies, faces trials that test and strengthen him, confronts his ultimate ordeal, achieves transformation, and returns home changed. This isn't just good storytelling structure. It's a deliberate statement that Link is the hero, the archetypal champion who appears again and again in different forms, but always walks the same fundamental path. The games even acknowledge previous incarnations directly. The Adventure of Link on NES was a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda, following the same Link. A Link to the Past on SNES introduced a new Link but established that the events of the original games were ancient legends in this new era. Link's Awakening continued A Link to the Past's Link's journey. Ocarina of Time showed a new Link in a different era, then Majora's Mask continued his story. Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages followed yet another Link. Four Swords introduced a new incarnation. The Wind Waker, set hundreds of years after Ocarina of Time in the Flooded World timeline, explicitly references the Hero of Time and establishes that the new Link must prove himself worthy of the previous hero's legacy. This pattern continues throughout the series. Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks follow the Wind Waker timeline. Twilight Princess follows the Child timeline from Ocarina of Time. A Link Between Worlds continues the timeline started by A Link to the Past. Triforce Heroes references A Link Between Worlds. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom stand so far in the future that all timelines have potentially reconverged, with references to events from multiple timeline branches appearing throughout Hyrule. The official timeline, published in Hyrule Historia, doesn't separate these links as completely different people. It maps incarnations of the same heroic spirit across different eras and timeline branches. The language used throughout the book consistently refers to the hero's spirit reincarnating, not to random individuals who happen to be named Link. This distinction is crucial. Reincarnation in Zelda lore, as established by Skyward Sword's ending and confirmed in official materials, means the same spirit returns in a new body. The memories may be lost, the physical form may change, but the essential nature, the courage, the determination, the selfless drive to protect others remains constant. Breath of the Wild makes this explicit in ways previous games only implied. The recovered memories show Link's character before the calamity, duty-bound, silent by choice to better focus on his responsibility, willing to sacrifice everything for Zelda and Hyrule. After losing his memories and waking a century later, Link retains these fundamental traits. He doesn't remember Zelda, but he's immediately driven to save her when he learns she's holding Ganon back. He doesn't remember Hyrule, but he's immediately willing to fight to save it. The memories return, but his core nature never changed. Even with complete amnesia, the heroic spirit remained. Tears of the Kingdom reinforces this further by showing that even when Zelda travels back thousands of years and witnesses an ancient Link fighting Ganondorf, the connection between that ancient hero and the current Link is explicitly acknowledged. The Master Sword recognizes Link across thousands of years of time because it's the same spirit wielding it. Zelda's plan depends on this connection. She trusts that Link will find the sword she sends through time, precisely because she knows the bond between hero and blade transcends individual lifetimes.
The evidence becomes overwhelming when examining enemy encounters across games. Ganondorf isn't a new person in each game. He's explicitly the same being resurrecting or transforming across time. The games go out of their way to establish this continuity for the primary antagonist. The Wind Waker's Ganondorf is the same one sealed by the hero of time. Twilight Princess's Ganondorf is the same one who survived execution in the timeline where Link warned Zelda about the future. Breath of the Wild's Calamity Ganon is described as the lingering hatred of Ganondorf, who, sealed beneath Hyrule Castle in Tears of the Kingdom, is revealed to be the original Demon King from thousands of years prior. If Ganondorf maintains identity and continuity across incarnations, why would Link be completely different each time? The narrative symmetry demands that the hero opposing evil across time must also maintain some form of continuity. This isn't just thematic preference, it's logical consistency within the established lore. Demise's curse in Skyward Sword explicitly yokes together his hatred with the hero's spirit and the goddess's blood as three forces in eternal conflict. You can't have continuity for one without continuity for the others. The marketing and promotional materials Nintendo has released over the decades also reveal this underlying continuity. Official artwork, promotional videos, and anniversary celebrations consistently present Link as a singular, iconic character, rather than dozens of disconnected individuals. The 25th anniversary logo featured a Link design that incorporated elements from multiple games. The 30th anniversary featured similar unified imagery. Nintendo's own merchandise line presents Link as one character with many appearances, rather than many characters who happen to share a name. This isn't just corporate branding convenience, it reflects the fundamental truth about Link's design. He is the hero, the eternal champion, the spirit of courage manifested in physical form across countless eras. His appearance changes to fit the needs of each story and the technical capabilities of each console generation. His fundamental nature never changes, because that nature is what defines him. The confusion in the fanbase about whether each Link is truly a new person stems from a very modern, very literal interpretation of identity that doesn't align with the mythological and philosophical foundations of the series. In Western culture, we tend to think of identity as absolute and individual. You are you, someone else is someone else. Reincarnation, when acknowledged at all, is often treated as creating an entirely new person who happens to have some vague spiritual connection to someone who lived before. But Zelda draws heavily from Eastern philosophical traditions, where reincarnation doesn't mean total separation. The spirit carries essential qualities forward. The cycle of death and rebirth doesn't erase what came before, it transforms and continues it. When Zelda lore speaks of Link's spirit reincarnating, it's not saying completely different people are randomly selected to fight evil. It's saying the same heroic essence returns again and again, adapted to each era's specific challenges, but fundamentally unchanged in nature. This is why Link can be both the same and different simultaneously.
Same spirit, different circumstances. Same courage, different appearance. Same destiny, different journey. The adaptability isn't a bug in the narrative, it's the entire point. Link endures across time precisely because he can adapt to any challenge while maintaining his essential heroic nature. He's not trapped in a single form or single era. He transcends both while remaining recognizably himself. The games celebrate this transcendence. When players who started with The Wind Waker eventually play Ocarina of Time, they recognize Link despite the massive differences in visual presentation. When someone's first Zelda game is Breath of the Wild, they can pick up Twilight Princess and immediately understand who Link is and what he represents. This recognition isn't accidental, it's engineered through careful design that maintains core elements while allowing tremendous surface variation. Link's evolution across the series isn't evidence of disconnected characters, it's proof of something far more profound. Truly iconic heroes transcend any single interpretation. They adapt, evolve, and transform while remaining essentially themselves. Batman has been depicted by countless artists with radically different styles, portrayed by multiple actors with varying interpretations, and written by hundreds of different writers across decades. Yet, Batman remains Batman. The evolution doesn't make him less Batman, it makes him more enduring because he can be relevant across changing times and changing audiences. Link functions the same way. Each game presents a version of Link suited to that specific story's needs, that specific era's technology, and that specific audience's expectations. But strip away the visual style, the specific gameplay mechanics, and the particular narrative details, and what remains is always the same: a courageous hero who rises from ordinary origins to face extraordinary evil, who protects the innocent at personal cost, who persists against impossible odds, and who never speaks, but whose actions echo across time.
This is why Link doesn't need dialogue to have personality, why he doesn't need a detailed backstory to be compelling, why each new game can completely reinvent his appearance without destroying his identity. The evolution is the identity, the adaptability is the character. Link isn't diminished by changing, he's defined by his ability to be exactly what each era needs him to be while remaining fundamentally true to the spirit of courage that drives him. The new Link theory misses this entirely. It treats each game as a reset when they're actually iterations. It sees disconnection where there's deliberate continuity. It mistakes the absence of explicit memory for absence of identity. And most fundamentally, it underestimates what Nintendo has actually accomplished with this character. Creating a character who can remain iconic across nearly 4 decades, multiple console generations, drastically different art styles, and evolving gaming conventions is extraordinarily difficult. Most gaming franchises that attempt long-term continuity either lock themselves into a single timeline with a single protagonist who never ages or changes, or they abandon continuity entirely and hope nostalgia carries them forward. Nintendo found a third path. Create a mythological cycle where the hero returns eternally, adapted but recognizable, new but familiar, different but the same. This is the genius of Link's design. He's not a single character in the traditional narrative sense. He's an archetype, a force, a promise that courage will always rise to face evil no matter how many times evil returns. Each incarnation proves that promise anew. Each game demonstrates that the spirit of the hero isn't bound by time, mortality, or circumstance. Courage persists. Heroism endures. Link returns. Understanding this transforms how every Zelda game can be experienced. When lifting the Master Sword in any game, players aren't picking up a random legendary weapon, they're connecting to every hero who wielded it before. When facing Ganon in any incarnation, players aren't fighting a random monster, they're continuing an eternal struggle between courage and power. When Zelda places her trust in Link, she's recognizing a spirit she's known across countless lifetimes, even if this incarnation of her consciousness doesn't remember. The games reward this understanding with deeper meaning. Twilight Princess's hero's shade teaching combat techniques becomes a moment where one incarnation of Link's spirit directly guides another. The Wind Waker's journey to prove worthiness of the hero of time's legacy becomes a test of whether the spirit has maintained its courage across centuries. Breath of the Wild's recovered memories become fragments of one lifetime within an eternal cycle. Tears of the Kingdom's ancient murals become evidence that the cycle stretches back further than any single game's timeline. Every reference, every callback, every piece of recurring imagery gains additional weight when understood as part of this continuity. The green tunic isn't just a costume, it's a symbol of the hero's spirit that appears in multiple eras because the spirit it represents never dies. The Master Sword isn't just powerful equipment, it's the blade specifically forged for one heroic spirit that recognizes that spirit regardless of physical form. The Triforce of Courage isn't just a magical artifact, it's the physical manifestation of the virtue that defines Link across all incarnations. This is what makes the Zelda series special. It's not just a collection of loosely connected fantasy adventure games, it's a mythological cycle that uses gameplay, art design, music, environmental storytelling, and narrative structure to create something larger than any individual entry. Each game is both standalone and part of the whole. Each Link is both unique and eternal. The evolution and the consistency exist simultaneously because that contradiction is exactly what makes legends endure. Heroes in mythology don't stay the same. They adapt to their era's challenges while embodying timeless virtues. They appear in forms suited to their audience while maintaining essential nature. They're specific enough to be compelling and universal enough to be eternal. This is what Link has always been, not a single person in every game, not even really a single person across all games. Something more profound, the eternal return of courage in whatever form each era requires to face the darkness. The next time a new Zelda game releases with a completely different art style, a new era of Hyrule, and what appears to be yet another new Link, remember what's actually happening. Nintendo isn't abandoning the previous Link or resetting the character, they're doing what they've always done, showing that the hero spirit transcends any single form, any single era, any single interpretation. They're proving once again that courage doesn't die. It just waits for the moment it's needed most and then returns in exactly the form required to face whatever evil has emerged. Link evolves because heroes must evolve to remain relevant. But Link endures because what he represents, courage, selflessness, persistence, hope, never goes out of style. The evolution isn't evidence of newness, it's evidence of timelessness. And that's what makes Link not just a video game character, but a genuine modern myth that will continue inspiring players for generations to come.